Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV video. In this one, we're going to be checking out a Famitsu interview and all of its details. This interview was done with Yoshi P just after the North American Fan Festival, and thanks to 11 Mile here on Reddit, who has translated the massive 8-page interview that we're going to be looking at today. Now, I am live streaming this, but you will not be able to hear any notifications. You won't see any notifications, so it's going to act just like a normal YouTube video. This is going to be a pretty long one, so by the way, strap in. It's going to be a while. So first things first, nice little confirmation here. Proto Ultima will be in the patch. Now it says the patch, but patch 3.5 I think is what he means by that. That's what they did with Odin, where they put him in 2.5. Proto Ultima will be completely unchanged from his FanFest counterpart. It will be a 24-man, completely unchanged difficulty from FanFest. So it's just going to be for fun. I imagine there will be some degree of glamour that comes from it, maybe, in the actual game, but they'll probably just do it so that people can experience it, outside of Fan Festival. They're not really working on DirectX 12. We knew this. They're working on native 4K resolution. They told us at FanFest. They still don't comment on if the female is a monk or a dancer. I think they're doing that on purpose at this point, because they talk about how the male, the Warrior of Light, he's wearing the 4.0 Monk AF. So monks, you have somewhat of an idea of what your armor is going to look like. And then they talk about the difficulties of making the trailer. They won't talk about the female character. It just says no comment. It doesn't say that he said, oh, she's not what you think. They literally just didn't talk about her. AF equipment will be available at level 70. They'll show more of the remaining AFs in future Producer from the Letter Live. Song in the trailer might be different in the complete version of the opening in the future. All right, that's good to know. Now, this is interesting. We are given at least 1/3 of the major content of Stormblood's announcement. The remaining 2 is soon to be told during Japan Fan Fest and European Fan Fest. This excludes the minor ones that will be included in the future. So we're given 1/3 of the major content of Stormblood's announcement. So, I mean, that seems kind of expected because it's Fan Festival. But what I remember them doing with Heaven's Ward was they announced almost everything, like content-wise, that was going to be in, and then all the other 2 did was completely elaborate on pieces of it. I don't know if this just means that 1/3 of the details was what it is, and then the other 2/3 are like the specific details, like what are the actual primals, how many bosses are in a raid tier, what are the actual raid tiers, where are we going, things like that. It's not made entirely clear here, so I'm going to leave that open to interpretation from you guys as well. Hints at the scenario against Garlemald may go up to 6.0. I mean, that's expected. They got a lot of land that they've taken over, but that kind of, if it goes up to 6.0, does that kind of tease where we're going in 6.0 at all? Because I'd imagine to end our story with Garlemald, we need to go to Garlemald at some point. I'm just saying. Up till now, primals are summoned mostly by the people of beast tribes. We're going to see a totally new region and area that primals will appear in the future will somehow be illustrated differently from what we've seen so far. So I guess more things like Shiva, where it's not just like beast tribes, or maybe even just different from it needing to be like crystals formed into, combined with belief. It's not made entirely clear here what it is, but just because we're going to a new place, there's different ways to summon primals there. Ascians are going to have less of a presence in Stormblood. I'm okay with that because they, I don't know, their presence in Heaven's Ward. The Warrior of Darkness arc and how it ended, I can understand why the Ascians really aren't in the forefront anymore. They need a new plan. Xenos EA Galvus is described as a character that does not go in line with any other character that we have so far. And on top of that, he talks about Xenos' weapon, and he says the weapon he holds isn't exactly related to his character, and if asked if he's holding a gunblade, then yes, he is holding a gunblade, a gun samurai blade by the look of it. They asked how he's going to be compared to Kefka, and I was like, I don't know, that doesn't, Regula is supposed to be our Kefka from what I can understand, and he's not even that crazy yet. For now, he's the biological son of the current emperor. So I don't think they ever explicitly said he was the son of the current emperor. We always assume that he had some sort of other relation because he's part of the royal bloodline. That's what Ye in his name means. The word between Xenos and Galvus means he's of the royal bloodline. He's legitimately the son of the current emperor. So that gives him... He wants to impress Daddy, I imagine. Or he doesn't trust Daddy and he wants to run things his own way. I'm looking to see if there's going to be any insurgency coming out of Xenos when it comes to the expansion. Regular Van Hydrus will have a role in 3.5. Of course he'll have a role. We still have to wrap up the Warring Triad. There will be a decisive moment of... Didn't they tell us this decisive moment thing? By the way, decisive moment decisive battle, Final Fantasy VI. I like the reference there. There'll be something revealed about him in 3.5. Didn't they say the same thing when we went into, like, he was going to be profoundly changed by what he found in patch 3.3? Maybe he was, and it just didn't amount to anything till now. We'll just have to see. Though the staffs have decided on what to do with Estinian, for now they won't divulge anything. So Estinian, obviously, he's not done. He wandered off into the distance, and now we're waiting to see what they're going to do with him. They don't know whether or not they'll have a role for him in 4.0, but just know that his character won't disappear entirely. So you may see Estinian's voice actor on the list of voice actors for 4.0, but whether or not he has a role, like a dominant role, it doesn't seem to be... it's almost decided, is what they say. Yoshida actually wants Estinian to join the Scions outright, but just because of the way they've developed his personality, that's not something that would happen right away. The flow for Stormblood is the same in terms of leveling up for your first time. You're going to do main story quests from 60 to 70. The one major difference is that they're going to be changing the ratio of main story quests to side quests. That is a big one. So they give an example here. Let's say that you had 200 main story quests and 150 side quests in 2.x. leading up to the end, or leading up from 2.0, like going from 1 to 50, because that's the leveling experience. In 4.0, the ratio is going to be off in a different way. It's going to be more main scenario quests and less side quests, and even on top of that, the main scenario quests are going to have larger EXP rewards to if this ratio goes like where there's so few side quests and you need more EXP from the main story quests, then make sure the main story quests have a wider amount of EXP or a greater amount of EXP rewarded to the player, so that way you don't feel like you're being dragged off to the side and doing menial tasks all the time. Thank God. They're going to hint another new job at the upcoming FanFest in Japan, Tokyo. Again, jobs, no classes. There are no classes. No classes. Just I'm knocking on that class door and saying no. There you go. And then he just jokes around about the North American teaser again. Oh, you know, I just wore that Batman shirt because I really like Nolan's Batman trilogy. It's just a coincidence that Dark Knight was put into the game. Shut up. There won't be any new roles in Stormblood. There will be no support role. Now, of course, that still doesn't mean that that's not a dancer in the video. I'll give you that. But just know that there's not going to be a support role. It's still tank, healer, DPS. And then, of course, you have ranged physical, ranged magical, melee physical currently. As for battle system changes, it won't be to a point where you need to relearn skills once you enter Stormblood. Put in a rough image, think of it as this way. Adjusting Featherfoot to allow players to have a high evasion rate instead of whatever we have now. But do note that not all actions will be adjusted like that. So it sounds like Featherfoot would just, in this case, be buffed insanely. that's the way I'm interpreting that, is that that's just an example that's given. It's not saying that's what they'll do to Featherfoot, if anything at all. That's just the example that's given. So let's not dive too much into that. They didn't say that's what Featherfoot is going to do. Just an example. The entire objective of the skill adjustments is to make it a lot more useful than before, and not just some actions that are there and don't serve any purpose. Of course, there will also be some skills where it drops the current but gains types of effects. So basically, they're just outright changing skills. However, Yoshida declared that this was just an example. Do not take it as the entire truth yet. Good thing I just said that. I just wanted to make that clear. The skill cap on reaching 70 will remain the same skill cap that we have at level 60. So the current, this is very important, because when they talked about pruning skills and whatnot, people were incredibly concerned. It seems that, based on this comment, the difficulty of playing your job currently is the difficulty that will be maintained even at level 70, even after the job adjustments, even after the new skills are added. So no, you are not going down to 3 or 4 buttons pressed for the entire job like a lot of people were afraid about. Think of a similar experience to what you're having now, but with new, flashier, and useful skills. Very important piece of information right there. It's not finalized, but that's currently what the plan is. Hopefully, that's how it actually ends up being. Okay. I really want to put emphasis on that because there's so many threads about it. Oh, man. Okay, when asked about battle system specific UI, this was mentioned at FanFest. Will there be any changes on the concept of maintaining Blood of the Dragon or Enochian? This is just an example of this possibility you can maintain the effects of Enochian permanently. Again, whenever he says this is an example, this is, I guess, just ideas that are running around their head. They're not finalized. Just want to clear that again. This was another thing that they spoke about. was in terms of actual buff management. This is where we may see certain things become easier for jobs without needing to necessarily reduce the amount of buttons pressed. Again, very important information. But in return, it'll add a bonus towards Black Mage triggered by doing the specific order or something like that. This is really just an example. Basically, when the Enochian timer starts ticking, the timer that's been used up will automatically restart. With specific time with specific actions used, a somewhat different element will then push it to a plus side effect or something similar. So basically making it so Enochian can not only be maintained, but you're granted benefits for allowing it to maintain for that amount of time, or it's given, Enochian itself is given an additional effect on certain spells. It seems the way that they're trying to describe it. If you do not think of something to address the state of Enochian not wearing off, and on top of that giving bonus to players who have done well to maintain Enochian, then we won't be able to close the gap itself. However, if we made it too simple, the top players will feel it's boring. So then we try to implement a new feature and aim for a point where the top players will feel even comfortable playing it. Though it's just a tentative conversation here, there are cases where being able to do AoE attacks right after ley lines, yeah, AoE attacks, and then while continue avoiding gradually moving away from your destination. That's basically talking about, hey, I put my ley lines and boss wants me to move all around the arena. I hate you. They're just talking about that. On additional skills, there isn't much considering how tank stances work with the adjustment that will come in the future. Yoshida's still thinking of how to address the problem of stance switching on additional skills. However, the adjustment will shape the outcome of battle content itself. They have created, so in other words, they don't know yet. They're toying around with ideas. That's what most of this is. The overall new skills for Stormblood are aimed towards making it much better than the roles are confined to, like making Dragoon more fun or making Paladin defend better and sturdier. However, how to obtain these skills might be different than usual, like there will be changes in the usual level up to a certain level, receive job quests, gain new skills. So that could be nice. They could do that differently. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I mean, ultimately, I can't imagine it would be so unique in the way that you would obtain new skills, unless it's like use Sheltron 200 times, and then you get this new skill. I mean, I'm just throwing something out there. They didn't mention anything like that, but I'm spitballing ideas at this point. There are considerations on which jobs will get specific UI. So for those who don't remember, they said certain abilities like Grease Lightning or Enochian may get specific UI elements. If you're someone who's used to using, I believe it's called auras in World of Warcraft, and how each of them sort of has their own UI look, that seems to be what he's talking about here. I think they eventually worked auras into World of Warcraft, and now it's just a normal thing. But back in the day, I believe it was called the auras that people used. So just keep that in mind. Like Dark might get a Dark Knight gauge, a Dark gauge bar from there. Dark Knight players will manage that bar. Images, something like that. The UI interface graphics will be different depending on what job you use well. Like if Monk Grease Lightning will have 3 orbs like Mantra located on the screen. The first orb will be lit when Grease Lightning stack is 1, and then if 3, it shines brightly. Something like a gauge getting filled up as in fighting games. There you go. Okay, so that's a much more clear thing. I think the Dark Knight one was a bad choice because Dark Knights use TP and MP. They don't manage a third resource, so I guess maybe when they're thinking about making their MP bar more visible, I don't know why they went with Dark Knight on that example. Even so, dots will still require management, so you're not getting away from that, guys. And not all timers will be removed. For example, Enochian gets a specific UI to manage, while Thunder 2, Thunder 3 will just work as usual. Alright, so they're not going to give you giant dot countdowns for every dot that you have. Sorry, summoners. Sorry, every job that has a dot, which is every job in the game. Yoshida also mentioned that those specific UI elements will only be available for jobs at level 60, 1 to 59 will be as usual. That's strange to me. But Grease Lightning 3, you pick up pretty early. That feels like something that should be available earlier. So I would write feedback about that statement in general, like writing into the live letters and whatnot. Let's see. Therefore, the level you gain your skills also change in the order to allow you to use allow you to get used to the skills beforehand. Most of the existing skills will be overall adjusted to accommodate it. So a lot of, I guess, the order in which we learn skills is also going to change considerably for some jobs in 4.0. Additional skill changes, however, will apply to all levels, so it starts from level 1. Additional job skills that are told to be shared across roles will be skills that are buffs, raging strikes, internal release, etc., and debuffs. Bio, miasma. What? Okay, I'm not. Wait, okay. Alright, never mind. Melee range and long physical range are considered to be different roles. However, physical range and caster may or might be considered under the same role. As for tank, skills that share the same effect may be the selected skills that are shared across roles, but still require lots of factors. So basically all this says is they're still trying to determine what skills are going to be shared as additional job skills, as role skills, pretty much. And that some of them are very clear, and they're still trying to finalize which jobs get access to which aspects on the shared role function. So all we can tell from this is they have some idea of what they want to do, but they don't have all of the ideas of what they want to do. So then we still have the second part down here. Global cooldown combos will not change, however. So if you're still pressing, if you still have your combos, they're not doing it. So from what I can understand, when they say global cooldown combos will not change, it doesn't say that they won't make them one button, but it makes what they're letting you know is that your current global cooldown combos are still going to be your global cooldown combos in the expansion. So if you're still used to using Goring Blade, you're still used to using Rage of Halone, expect those to stay the same. That's what I'm getting out of that statement right here. Existing jobs will have different images accompanying those changes. The unification of job and class itself may be in 5.0 onward, and that is if they want to do it. What they mean by unification, it means literally the phasing out of the class system. That is what this exact comment means right there. The unification of jobs and classes, so that there is not two different distinctions there. That may be in 5.0 and onward, and that's only if they feel like it. Personally, I think classes for like a new player kind of thing is okay. It's just that it does, I know plenty of new players that are super confused by the whole system, and if it was just one, it'd be easier, but then the lore of all the class guilds and whatnot, I don't know, then it gets kind of shaky about the whole class guild. Unless you're just a monk and then the class guild is pugilist and you just don't learn any monk skills until 30 plus. I guess they could still just do it that way. Yoshida commented on the level up bonus points and commented that new players rarely ever do that since recent new games rarely have that feature. Yeah, because it's no point when they just put all 30 of them into strength. One staff member actually proposed an intermediate hall. We have the Hall of the Novice, and then one of them suggested the intermediate hall. It teaches rotations. Yoshida was initially quite mad, but recently began to think that maybe it's a good idea. It is a good idea. Please give that staff member a raise. Please give that staff member a raise, because he deserves it. Because that man is smart. For accuracy, Yoshida commented that there's a possibility of being removed altogether. It's quite stumped that it's a feature that in the end causes more inconveniences. As for parry, it lies under the same fate. The specifics may change when in the end they may be removed. So basically, they don't know what they're doing with accuracy and parry yet. Maybe parry gets removed altogether and they replace it with something else. We don't know yet. For endgame raids, though, Yoshida's thoughts will make it too long. In short, he is happy about the results of the raid scene right now, and he does understand that some may feel somewhat not enough from it. And he doesn't plan to be satisfied from there, and he plans to add something more to the experience even after one has cleared the raid. To me, that's his raid achievements. One thing that we really don't have right now is, like, I don't know, God, I need a good example right here. Okay, A4 Savage. Defeat the manipulator without ever losing Nisi. Like, even the strategy that was used by Elysium with the Nisi didn't involve doing it till the end. It did it until a certain point, then you dropped it. Like, I'd imagine it's things like that, where they ask you to do a very specific task as part of a raid achievement, and you could do mounts as rewards. I found that to be a very satisfying thing about World of Warcraft, and they're not the only MMO that's done that. So I'm curious to see what that is. He doesn't mention, at least not yet, more bosses, which is the one thing I want. Like, I could deal with the raid tiers as they are now if we had 6 bosses. I feel like that's just, I hope they have the budget and the manpower to do it. Let's see. Yoshida is extremely glad that people are able to experience the story from doing normal mode. He personally thinks it should maintain the normal Savage 2 mode setting. However, he also understands that top players felt held back by that setting, and he knows that's because there are top players that the normal players have something to strive for. And on that, also, he's discussing with the staff on top of saying maybe it'll be better if there's one more mode other than normal and Savage. Yeah, we've been talking about this for ages, geared specifically towards the best players. Yeah, we spoke about that. He even spoke about it at North American Fan Festival. Maybe in odd-numbered patches they do like a really Savage mode or something like that. So that's not really news right there. When asked what kind of challenge, Yoshida said maybe it's kind of, instead of content that's made for everyone, it's content that's made for the superiority. Interesting. When asked if this is a mode beyond Savage, Yoshida said yes. And to enter a party, you must have cleared all the requirements beforehand, is his answer. Yoshida did also mention that instead of a difficulty-based content, it's more like a challenge. When asked if the person has to clear Savage 4th floor beforehand, Yoshida said yes. He only hoped that since it's a no-holds-barred difficulty, Yoshida said that no one will complain it's too hard. Too hard may be the words you should not say for this particular suggested mode. Yeah, considering that's what it's designed for, that would be pretty silly. It's designed to be very hard. So saying it's too hard would be pretty strange. Yoshida's like, if you say it's too hard, I don't give a shit. It's supposed to be hard. Get over it. That seems to be what his thought is on it. Yoshida personally comments on the Creator Savage is the best when it comes to the raid balancing. He is glad that because there are a lot of people that have cleared Savage, it encourages other lesser players to give it a try, and they've been progressing nicely. However, he doesn't promise that this difficulty will be the baseline for the next raid due to the level caps, battle system changes, to other factors. That's very similar to how the first set of Savage was harder for a lot of people, not just because the DPS checks were higher, but because people still didn't know how to play their jobs 2 weeks into the game. They were still in the learning process, and he's saying that that could again affect the difficulty of the next raid tier. On the Creator's Savage Clear comments, Yoshida predicted that the world first would happen in for A9 Savage would happen in under 2 hours. A10 Savage would be 2.5 more hours, and then A11 Savage would be cleared just before the maintenance. Oh, while A11 Savage was cleared just before the maintenance, the opinions within the staff hence were split during the prediction. So the gap between the world first clear time and the staff's prediction was about 6 hours, and the staff predicted whether the world first clear could clear A12 Savage within the same day, which again kind of hitting on the staff's prediction mark. So the clear time around 48 hours is almost definitely within their expectations. So she'd also commented that A11 Savage was indeed the wall to most. Yeah, it's much harder than A10 Savage, but it was just a better fight. Just not overly difficult, but compared to A10 Savage, it definitely asked for more out of the player. Optical sight mechanic has created a player base of being able to do this mechanic easily and bad at this mechanic. They definitely took note in that. They took note, they're not changing it yet. Now, my hint about the 24-man alliance, of course, the raid remains 24-man. You may be able to catch a glimpse of it on the next FanFest. Hey, that's November 25th. On the Forbidden Land of Eureka, Yoshida didn't think that it's a place everyone would like to visit, equating to a ghost house where why would I want to purposely visit a scary place like that? That's a really, really, really weird distinction to draw, Yoshida, because I love the Haunted Manor. However, even if players were not to go because it's a scary place, it's a place that is to create curiosity because even if it's so scary, there's still something to look forward to. Yoshida answered the question using a couple of dating logic. He's got to find someone's got to write this man some better like comparisons to things. Please stop. Don't compare Forbidden Land of Eureka to a couple dating. Please don't do that, Yoshi. Oh man. No, November 25th is also the next live letter. November 25th is indeed the next live letter. Forbidden Land of Eureka may be the place that is created as a theme park, where one can do their next relic weapon through here. Yoshida on that issue mentions that up till now, weapons are all upgraded through using existing content, but players may be sick of this, and since they are also at its limit of tying to new content upon using existing content to clear, hence the devs have agreed on creating a specific attraction park for the next relic weapon content. And since the Zodiac weapon and the animal weapon is a time to win based content, agreed, they found the name Forbidden Land quite appropriate. The concept behind it came from Final Fantasy III, which Eureka is a land sealed by strong weapons and magic. Hence they thought of using it as content in 4.0 that aims to have players invest their time without getting burned out. The content is also aimed to be challenging, which he cited the 72-hour notorious monster as one of the key features. So, Dynamis. So basically it sounds like they've created Dynamis to me. I mean, to some degree, because they say without getting burned out, so that almost tells me that you can only get a certain amount of progress per visit to the Forbidden Land of Eureka, or a certain maybe even amount of progress per day, even if you were to go to the Forbidden Land of Eureka, if that's what they're trying to do to not get burned out. That's sort of what my interpretation is, but I'm curious what this 72-hour, what the Notorious Monster goal is here. If you make something that spawns every 3 days, is it always every 3 days? Is it exactly 3 days from when it died last so the entire server can communicate it and say, hey guys, be sure to come here. There's going to be a big boss fight soon. Everybody be sure to be here. It's going to be great. Or is it going to be, is it going to work differently? It's going to be like, oh, well, we're all kind of looking around and fighting for the right to claim this enemy. I doubt they'll do that. It'll probably be like the first one I mentioned where it's like the hunt and like 6,000 people show up and we're just like, I don't know what's going on. The boss isn't getting debuffs anymore. We'll see what actually ends up happening with that one. The image shown in the keynote on the Forbidden Land of Eureka is not finalized. Okay. It's also content made for Final Fantasy III fans. They can feel nostalgia. I mean, with the Crystal Tower, that doesn't surprise me. Exploration Island 2.0, which is the new diadem. That's in patch 3.5. It's described as a mini raid that requires 4 people in the party, but it's entirely different from the Forbidden Land of Eureka. And both are different in starting points. In simpler terms, they're not related. Interesting. Requires 4 men in the party. I wonder if that's the minimum or if that's like what it's there for, is for 4-man parties, more difficult 4-man content. That's left very ambiguous, but let's see if they say anything else. Rewards for the 2.0 are still underway and under tuning. Okay, that's not really a whole lot more. We don't actually know. The upcoming Relic weapon will be completely done through the Forbidden Land of Eureka. That's for, that's post-anima. This is a 4.0 Relic weapon. If it goes well, maybe he'd think of doing armor and equipment first of the Relic through Eureka as well. God, I can't do it. Okay, if it goes well, he says. If it doesn't go well, they won't do it. On the armor version, Yoshida's idea is he wants players to register the armor of their liking in terms of outlook and then create their Relic armor from there, which hints on the glamour playing a huge part. So basically, you say, hey, this is an item. And I really like this item, and I like wearing this item, and I want to make it great. And we're going to take it to Forbidden Land of Eureka. This Sublugar, this item level 330 Sublugar is beautiful now, isn't it? The Golden Sublugar. That's how I interpret that. Yoshida is completely aware that doing the same type of content again and again will cause players to get sick and give up on the game itself, and since this enters their second expansion, while Yoshida stresses that the base design will remain unchanged, they plan on designing games that are catching up. They plan on design games that are catching up to the modern standards without having to fall back on old types of content designed just for nostalgia. Okay, that's good. So basically, they don't want to just go back and say like, what did they do 10 years ago that people really liked? Let's do that because people love nostalgia, right? They don't want to rely on that is what I'm getting out of that comment right there. No new races. That's it. No more asking. No more races. No new races in the expansion. I knew that just based on like, you know, development like sort of standards and where it goes. No new race. There you go. When asked how there's a group called the Griffon Knights, which is an Alamegan army thing, whether we would get to do battle while riding on flying mounts, Yoshida said that if we were to do so, he'd want multiple players to ride on giant mounts and start bombing things around. That's an if, not we're going to do it. The outline of leveling progression for 70 is done. The issue, however, is whether jump potions will be implemented or not. They are still not 100% on what they want to do on that front. Otherwise, the pickup point will be the same as 2.5 to 3.0. All main scenarios will have to be cleared beforehand. I'm assuming that this right here, this concerns me because we were told that we wouldn't need 3.1 to 3.5 until main story. I mean, this is being roughly translated on Reddit. I'm not going to take it as gospel. But when I read this exact sentence, the pickup point will be the same as 2.5 to 3.0. All main scenarios have to be cleared beforehand. We were told there would be some sort of synopsis for players who wanted to jump in from 3.0 directly into 4.0. And so I'm wondering if this is just an example given where it means more so that all of the directed requirements will be needed before time. I'm not 100% sure what it means. I'm just going to leave it as ambiguous for now, because there's no way, it's completely the opposite of what we've been told up to this point. So I'm just going to leave it as is, and I just accept that it's a translation thing. 3.5 serves as a tie-in to Stormblood. This is obvious. The main 3 cities will remain non-flyable zones for mounts. That's due to the fact that they do not have a cost. Instead of investing cost on making it flyable in the existing area, decided to invest it on the new areas. However, they may have planned for some existing areas like these. New beast tribes are under planning. It'll be in. On adding new areas under the existing region, like the northern side of Ishgard, Yoshida simply answered, I don't know. That's it. What else is there? While the inventory expansion is underway, it is unknown whether they'll be doing it for retainers as well. I didn't think they would. That would be insane. That's because the system specifications of the inventory back for the player and retainers are different. When asked if the termination of PS3 support means they have secured additional resources needed to expand the inventory slots, she said, as a lot of players completely misunderstood, no, the termination of PS3 support has nothing to do with the inventory expansion. So apparently that wasn't a problem. The PS3 was not the issue with the inventory expansion. PS3 has other issues, apparently, with the development process. We don't know what. Yoshida does provide an in-depth explanation about the inventory system thingy, but I'm omitting this in order to not clutter. Dude, I want that! Go back and do it. Go back and do it. I may make a separate topic. Full translation. Okay. Hopefully he does that, because I would love to hear a more in-depth explanation of that. When asked further, Yoshida has clarified that a lot of people cited how memory problems are the one thing holding back the game, but in actuality, it was never about memory issues. This is also explained in depth, but I'm providing TLDR. Also, the reason for ending PS3 support is due to how they want to enhance and improve the playing experience itself through hardware that provides a better experience, and Sony has been pushing the PS4 up. Both companies decided to fully bring the game to the next level is the reason Yoshida provided. Yoshida also reiterated that cutting off PS3 support is not meant to cut off or abandon PS3 players. He's doing it to completely encourage the players by playing the game with a better experience. It's like, hey, so you get on the PS4, it's better. Yeah, they knew that. They've known, trust me, they've known that since February of 2014. They know the PS4 is better. Not all of them can get there, but I mean, there's no going back now at this point. On the next segment, jumping potions, Yoshida mentioned that the ratio of agreement in implementing jump potions are 7 to 3. That means for every 7 people that agree to it, if I'm not mistaken, every 7 people that agree to it, there are 3 people that disagree. If they do implement this, the devs will decide to allow jumping potions only to a certain level, which would be level 60. We assume that would also be to get you caught up on the story. And they're also not made clear how the jumping potions are made available, what jobs they're available for. Can you do it for crafters? Can you do it for guys? There's a lot of missing information here, I guess because they're still on the fence about it, that we don't actually know. The release date for 4.0 is strongly hinted to be June of next year. I mean, that's early summer. So that definitely makes sense. So there was a lot of information here. Some of it I don't know how to interpret, mostly because it's hard to tell if it's a result of it being just of the translation itself of the words not being lined up properly. It's hard to tell if some of it is. Some of it's also, a lot of it's still like, hey, we're thinking about this, but we're not doing it yet. But there was a lot of information here, especially things like, you know, the difficulty of the jobs playing. I think that was one of the most important parts, is people being very concerned we would be down to like 3 or 4 button presses come the expansion. Just get used to the difficulty of playing your job now. According to this, outside of needing to learn how new abilities interact with your job, it shouldn't change from its current difficulty too much, which is okay, because I'm okay with the current difficulty. We were more under the impression it was going to go back to a Realm Reborn difficulty before, but this, I can't say I would have been opposed to that either, but I'm okay with this as well. I've had to get used to it. Many people have had to get used to it, and I think that then undoing that is, you know, definitely a little bit more controversial than keeping it consistent to some degree. I'm curious to see how that jump potion ends up working. It was mentioned quite a few times here, if it actually gets implemented, but it seems like most of them are in favor of it. So we definitely need more details on what they're planning for if it becomes a real thing. And other than that, other details, no new race, just jobs, and they would not comment on the damn female. It's like, please just say she's a monk. I just want to know that they say it. They didn't want to say it. They didn't even mention her. That's how they didn't even like, but what about this? And there's like, so the next question, they didn't even do that. They just outright never mentioned her, period. They wouldn't even ask and ignored the question. Overall, though, it was a really good interview, really jam-packed 8-page interview. Those full translations for some of those things, I definitely hope the guy gets around to. But, I mean, thank you again, 11 Mile. If you guys want to go check out the thread itself, and I don't know if you guys want to give him Karma or Reddit Gold or whatever, I post it in the Twitch chat. I'll post it in the YouTube video as well. Be sure to go over there and give that man your lovin'. Anyway, I'm going to get back to my usual live stream now. I've got another about an hour of Final Fantasy XIV, and then I've got a sponsored stream to do for a game called Twin Saga. So I will get on that. So thank you again for watching on Twitch. We're going to continue the stream now. Those of you on YouTube, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And until next time, take care.